Hey everyone, this is Christian and welcome back to my channel. I have a real special treat today. I have an interview that I'm posting with the well-known Hindi actor AAMIR Khan. I took this interview back in June, the summer of June in 2006. It was a great interview. It was a great opportunity to sit down and talk to AAMIR and learn more about the film industry there in India. This is the first interview that I did when I actually showed up to India. So with my camera, so I really didn't know how to shoot an interview or light or anything like that. So when you see the interview, you'll see that it's the quality is not great, but I hope you will still enjoy the interview. And with that, here is my interview with AAMIR Khan.
I see a lot of cynicism in a lot of world cinema today, including the US. But in Indian cinema still is very innocent. Well, I actually got interested in films and filmmaking and acting, all of it together. And this was roughly when I was about 16 or so, 16 years old. And I was born into a family of filmmakers. My father, my uncle are both filmmakers. So I guess I kind of grew up in this environment of filmmaking. Though I got really interested in it when I was about 16 or 17, at which point I began working with my uncle as an assistant director. So I was, I think, about 18 when I began working with him. I worked with him for about 4 years. So that was really my training period of learning about filmmaking, about cinema. My first film was a film called QAYAMAT, which my uncle actually produced, and it was directed by my cousin. It was his first film as a director. So the two of us have more or less grown up together, and we were making this film as our first attempt at making the film. And it was a great experience, and fortunately for us, the film was a huge success at the box office. It was, I think, probably the biggest success of the year. So I had quite a good start actually, and pretty much overnight I suddenly hit stardom, and then I've been working for the last 17 odd years. I've been fairly fortunate to have been part of a fair number of films that I feel quite happy about, films that have turned out rather well. Then I'm also been part of films that I haven't turned out so well. It's been a process of learning, and I've tried to improve with each film and tried to learn with each film. Well, I mean, as an audience, I've watched a lot of actors who I've loved and appreciated their work, and both Indian and actors from outside of India. Name a few, I mean, Harrison Ford or Tom Hanks, De Niro. But there's so many actually. I mean, if you look at films, contemporary mainstream Indian films, I would say maybe Rang De Basanti or Lagaan or Dil Chahta Hai, DILWALE, DULHANIA Le JAYENGE. Maybe a few films from the south, Mani Ratnam's films. He's a very good director. So maybe YUVA. These are the films that I can think of that I would recommend for people to watch. I have no idea how Americans, in general, what their perception is of Indian cinema. Very, very broadly, I think Indian cinema is the form that we operate in, or the form that we use is that of a musical. And so most of our mainstream films are musicals. So we use a lot of music in the storytelling, and songs and lyrics and poems, etc. Distinctive quality, I think, of Indian cinema is that it has a lot of hope in it. It has a lot of sweep and a larger-than-life quality. It lacks cynicism, which I see I see a lot of cynicism in a lot of world cinema today, including the US. But in Indian cinema still is very innocent in that sense. Indian audience is very innocent in that sense. They believe in fairy tales. They believe in a lot of very basic human values. And so I feel that is a distinctive quality really about Indian cinema. It's very old world in a lot of ways. I've traveled in the US with my film Lagaan, and I've got such a wonderful response to the film. And all the people who've seen Lagaan, and of course Lagaan finally got nominated at the Academy Awards. And I've met a lot of people who saw the film and came up to me and said, this is how films used to be made, and in the US, and there's so much hope and there's so much positive energy in the film that they could feel. We still believe in heroes, So yeah, I mean that is the one experience I can really point out to. One of the films that I've done and I've travelled with, for which I've got an almost unanimous response to the film, despite the fact that the film was about 3 hours 42 minutes, which is unusually long even for an Indian film. Obviously, the members of the Academy liked it to an extent that out of the 52 films that were there that year, it was among the top 5. So we were all very pleased, with the kind of response that we got in the US to the film. Well, presently, Indian films running in the US are catering primarily to the Asian audience. When I say Asian, I mean Indian and Pakistani or Bangladeshi. So it's actually just catering to that audience, and so therefore the marketing is done just for that audience. I don't think any non-Indian or non-Pakistani would even get to know of an Indian film released in the US. It's so limited in its attempt to reach out to people. So you only hit those television channels which cater to Indians or Pakistanis, and those newspapers, etc., which would inform Indians and Pakistanis of the release of the film. So there is in fact no attempt made to cross over to the American audience. And I believe that while the large majority of Indian films may not end up entertaining American audiences, I do feel that there is, every year a certain percentage of Indian films coming out would in fact, I think, entertain an American audience. So if you pick the right kind of films and market it to the American audience, they would in fact get to see a completely different kind of cinema, which I believe they would enjoy. What I like most about cinema and films is that you're part of storytelling. You're part of making a person feel different things. Telling a story, you're making the person laugh, you're making him cry, you're taking him through a journey, through an emotional journey, and that is what I find most exciting about being part of a film. But, I think probably the best way that I can put it is that probably Indian films of today still have the kind of innocence and hope of the films we see coming out of Hollywood during the 60s, or 50s or 60s. On an emotional key, that's the kind of cinema that you see coming out of India. Like the Frank Capra films, going back to basic human values and emotions. Indian cinema is changing and like I would imagine everything around us is. I mean, you know, everything goes through a change at all times. We're constantly changing, and so Indian cinema is also changing. And with newer people coming in, newer ideas, thoughts coming in, audiences changing, their tastes changing, we are constantly influencing. We're constantly experiencing different cultures and different kinds of people, and so we are also getting affected by that and changing. So Indian cinema is also, of course, going through a constant change, and so I think that is a continuous process. We keep going through change.